Hey guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. So today is going to be a bit of a combined video. It's going to be a kind of March and April favorites slash recent well, I don't want to say finished paintings, but recent paintings, some finished, some not. So some mostly just playing around, and as well as a few fun things that I've purchased recently, a few fun little art haul. Nothing is, it's not a lot of stuff, so I didn't want to do like tons of separate videos, so I decided to do a combined spring favorites slash what I've been painting recently slash a few things I've acquired recently kind of video. So starting off with paper or surfaces, or sketchbooks rather, they're all sketchbooks, and paints. So we'll start with sketchbooks first. So this one I showed you in my, oh, which video? I think was it like the first haul of 2020, or the one where we, after we got back from Paris. I think it was the second, no, the second haul. I'll have it linked in the video below. And I talked about this sketchbook that I picked up when we were in Paris, and it's all like handmade paper and it has this really lovely sort of linen texture to it, and I was curious how it would work with watercolor. It works with watercolor. It's not the best for watercolor. It doesn't show off granulation that well. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't really show like this is an ultramarine, and you can't really tell that it's granulating, and it is a granulating color. So I would say it's not the best. Like this one here, this is Lunar Blue by Daniel Smith, and it's a heavily granulating color, but you would not be able to tell based on that swatch, which is fine for the purposes of what I'm going to be using this book for. I'm planning on using this as kind of a color palette book, so putting together color palettes that I really like. So for example, this was one that I talked about in that video that I really liked, based off of a video by Kimberly Crick. This was something else, but again, I'm kind of curating, you know, color palettes that I like the look of together. I'll sort of swatch together on a page and label them, so that in the future, if I ever want to be like, oh well, I really want to do a painting but I want to use really sort of like earthy neutral tones, I'd be like, oh well, you know what, actually that would be a really nice color palette to fit that sort of mood or look that I want to go for. Or if I want something a little bit more purple leaning, I could look at this one potentially, or you know, just different color palette ideas. Like this was one I really quite liked. It's quite bright and colorful and playful, but it's not like a really it's not a standard red, yellow, blue type of color palette. You've got a Quin Gold here instead of a yellow. I've got Quinacridone Red, like a corally color, and then a Cobalt Turquoise or teal. But it does make some really fun mixes. I think that's as far as I've got so far, but yeah, so that's what I've been enjoying using this for. I would personally, like I said, I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's sized specifically for watercolor. It can handle watercolor, it can handle wet media. It's not the best though. That's my take on it. And like I said, I'll continue using it for this purpose, and then at the end I'll have a really lovely big book full of different color palettes that I like, and it'll be a really good source of inspiration if I'm stuck trying to come up with a color palette for a painting or wanted to do something and I'm not sure what I want to do. I can just flip through this and pick a page and be like, okay, I'll use these colors today, and you know, that'll be the first step towards getting started. So that's been a favorite of mine this last month that I've been really enjoying playing with. And everything that I can, I will have linked in the description box below. I can't link this because I bought this from a shop in person in Paris. So I don't even know what it's called, so I can't even search for it online, unfortunately. And so I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about my creaky chair. I don't know what is up with it. It's not been this creaky before. Second up is this sketchbook by Handbook. It's a Handbook watercolor sketchbook. as their travelogue. It's kind of like the A5 size. I've actually just finished filming a sketchbook flip through for this, so I'm not going to talk about it in too much detail, but I started this in October of last year, sorry, end of September of last year, and I stopped painting in it about a month later, shortly after I found out that I was pregnant, because morning sickness kicked in, and I basically didn't touch this for 5 months. I didn't touch most of my other art supplies for almost 5 months as well, to be quite frank. So this sat unfinished and unused for 5 months, and then I picked it back up again towards the end of March, and I finished it by early April. So I've definitely used it a lot in during March and April, so that's why it's included in this favorites video. Will I buy it again? I'm not entirely sure I would. I did enjoy it, but I think there are other, I think I kind of prefer the Stillman and Burn paper, the beta series. I'm not I wouldn't say no to another one of these, but I think I have a few other sketchbooks that I want to play with and try out and work my way through. And but it's definitely, it's not, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't completely in love with it either. So I think it's great. It's a cellulose paper. It doesn't handle watercolor the same way as as cotton paper would, but it's really fun for more loose and abstract kind of pieces. Not so great for more detailed pieces, in my opinion. Like, it was really fun for this type of stuff, line and wash type of paintings. Not great for something where you want to get a bit more detail into. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, fun for really abstract, more doodly, more kind of just playing around kind of pieces. So that's why I'm like, I liked it, I didn't love it. So yeah, I wouldn't say no to having another one, but I wouldn't rush out to get one either, if that, I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I will link it down below. It definitely handles wet media really well. That hasn't buckled too badly, as you can see, and because it has this strap, it holds it closed quite nicely as well. Oh, and it does, in case you're curious, I don't really use these, so I always forget, but it does have a clear sort of envelope pocket at the back that you can put stuff in if you use those. Like I said, I don't really use those, so that's something I always tend to forget these things have. Next up is my no pressure sketchbook that I made. There is a whole video on my channel on how I made this sketchbook, and I will make sure to have that linked in the description box below as well, if you're interested to go check it out. It's a really easy sketchbook to put together. There's no sewing involved, no staples, nothing. It's just tape and your paper. And the only issue I had with it was my paper is 100% cotton, and it doesn't like being taped. And I tried a couple of different types of washi tape. This wider one was definitely a bit more sticky and has worked a bit better, but this rainbow one that I used in the first half of the book started coming apart really straight away. For me, I think in this case it's just the wrong paper for the tape that I had. I made one of these for my daughter using mixed media paper and or cellulose watercolor paper, and that's held really well with the washi tape or the rainbow tape that I had in the back here. That's held really well with this tape. This specific paper, which is Saunders Waterford like cold press or rough paper, I can't remember, and it's quite thick paper. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually slightly thicker than 300 GSM, but I can't remember for sure. So it's just struggled to hold this paper together. Otherwise, the method does work, it's just not specifically for this paper. And I created this as like a fun sort of swatch book, record book, kind of just something I could play around in. That would be low pressure, as it were. So I did a couple of color wheels. I swatched out some of my supplies. So this is my updated granulating watercolor palette. So I'm not entirely sure what order these videos are coming out in at the moment. I have been trying to bulk film a lot of videos, so I have stuff to be able to publish once I go on maternity leave after my baby's born. So I'm not entirely sure what order these things are coming in, but I did do a video that is either out now or not yet. Going over updating my granulating watercolor palette. Each row here is like a different sort of color scheme of colors that I put together that I thought would be quite fun to play around with. I also, in that video about updating my granulating palette, I created a pastel palette, which I'll talk a bit more about when we get to the paints. This is my Roman Schmall colors that I have. So again, I also have actually posted this video already where I updated my Roman Schmall palette because I'd bought some new colors, and so these are the colors that I took out and I've added the new ones in. So I'll also link that video below for you. And other swatches, and then this was part of my creating my pastel watercolor palette, part of that video I was talking about. I also did an update on my gouache palette in that video, in that same video. Just did some abstract mixed media stuff. Oh, and this is, I was talking to a friend of mine who's also expecting a baby, and she's due very close to when I am. Like, we're due like within a week of each other. And I said I wanted to paint something for her baby's room, and they don't know if they're having a boy or a girl, so I was asking what their theme for the baby's room was going to be, and they said mountains, woodland, forest type of theme. So I played around with a color palette, knowing the colors that she really likes and the theme, and then I sort of sketched out some ideas of what I was going to do, and then these are the final pieces that I ended up doing. So I did this one based off this sketch. I decided not to put any wording on it. I thought I'd leave it as just the pictures. And then I did this rainbow. I tried that out. I wasn't sure about adding the moon and clouds at the top, so I just kept it very simple. And then this was the mountains with the foresty thing. Anyway, I thought it turned out really fun. It was really fun to just experiment and like practice with it on this paper, because this is also cotton paper, and I did the final pieces on cotton paper. So it was fun to experiment with it in this book, to kind of play with the idea and map it out, plan it, before going ahead and working on the final pieces, which I now need to put together and post to her. She lives in Ireland. These I did using my Roman Schmall paints as well. I think that's the last thing in here. Yeah, I've still got a few pages left in here to finish off this sketchbook, and then I'll do a little quick flip through / overview of how this has worked out for me. I think next time I'll use different paper that will handle being held together with tape a lot better. And then the last sketchbook that I'm going to show you is actually one that I got very recently. This is by Pink Pigs, and I'll have it linked below. I actually got 3 of them, so the other 2 I'll show you in the haul section. And yeah, so this has 270 GSM smooth paper in it. It's built, they advertise this as a watercolor sketchbook. I would call it more mixed media with this particular paper. It's 270 GSM cellulose paper. They also have an option that you can get it with Bockingford paper, which is 300 GSM, and that is watercolor paper, and that's cold pressed. This is definitely more on the smoother side. So I started this on the 17th of April, I think. Was that right? Was it the 17th or was it earlier? I can't remember now. 17th of April I think is the first date I have in here, but around mid-April. And so at the front I've just got a few paintings in here, mostly doodly, abstract-y type stuff. I've just been playing around with different types of media in here to see what works, and this was quite fun. Little mushrooms. And yeah, and here I was using some fine liners, and then I tried to color match the fine liners I use with my watercolors just to see if I could do that. Here I was playing with my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist brush pens, some fun, just fun painting. And then this is to do with something else that I got earlier. I have to show you later in the haul section. I have a whole video on this, so I won't talk about that too much now. And then at the back end of the book, I've been using this as a kind of like a swatch book, testing out different materials. So here we have some like water soluble pencils or crayons, some gouache, paint pens, different types of acrylic paint pens, Neo colors, more brush pens, water soluble brush pens, my metallic watercolors, my gouache palette, my pastel watercolor palette, my colored pencils. I showed in a haul a while ago that I got the 120 set of Brut Funner square oily colored pencils, and I went through and finished swatching those out, and then I selected my favorites. So I picked out 65 of the colors that I really liked, and I took them out of the box and I put them in this container so it's out and on the side, so I'll actually use them. Whereas if they're in the tin and tucked away, I'll just forget I have them. And then I've done a scrawler box video, which again, I'm not sure when that's coming out, but one of the boxes came with watercolors, and so then I just did this little painting here. This is to do with something I'll show you in the haul later. And then here we have my collection of Faber-Castell Pitt Artist brush pens that I swatched out, so I'd have a record of them somewhere. And then again, this is to do with another haul item, and that was it. So I only have a few pages left in this sketchbook. It's almost finished, and like I said, I started this in mid-April, and we're now on the 28th of April today, the day I'm filming this. So about 11 days, maybe a little bit more than 11 days, because I think I started these swatches a little bit before I did the first page here, but you know, it's about a couple of weeks worth of using the sketchbook, and it's almost completely full. So yeah, this sketchbook will be finished soon as well, and so yeah, I've really been enjoying working with this. For what it is, it's been great. I do think it's a little bit on the small side, especially because it is spiral bound. The Pink Pig sketchbooks are all spiral bound, so that is something to bear in mind if you don't like that. I don't mind it, but I think this is too small. It's an A5 size. I think it's too small to have the spiral binding, because it kind of does get in the way of the size of the page. So when we get to the haul section, you'll see the other two sketchbooks I got are bigger. So moving on to the paints that I've been loving this last couple of months. The first one is my Roman Schmall set, and I haven't done my updated swatch card yet, so ignore that, that's not up to date. But I have been absolutely loving these paints. You can see there's some pretty big divots in some of them now as well. Like this was one of the new paints that I got, and you can see that how much of it I've used already, and I've hit pan on the Ocean Blue and the Quinacridone Gold, but I've had those for quite a long time, so that's not too surprising. But I have been really loving using these paints. I've done a lot of my paintings this last couple of months using these colors, both in my sketchbooks and on loose sheets, and I've just been really loving playing with these and experimenting with them. So I will make sure I have my updated Roman Schmall palette video linked down below, because I swatch all my colors in detail on large swatches for you as well, so if you're interested in seeing that, that will be there. Sorry. Then this was another palette that I did a video on, and I'll also include that video in the link below, in the description box below. I created this as a for fun, kind of encouraging me to get outside and paint, which I have not done. I knew this would happen. I'm really not a plein air painter, and I don't like bugs, so painting outside just is not the most appealing thing, but I do want to do more of it, and I will endeavour to try. Anyway, so I created this palette. There's a little swatch card on the top, and I've really just been enjoying using this palette a lot as well in my sketchbooks, and you can see how much of the paints I've used, like the yellow and the Quin Gold. I've used them a lot. I've used my greens a lot as well. There's just some really big divots in a lot of these paints because I've been using them so much. I've noticed I don't tend to use my earth tones too much, and I'm trying to incorporate them more into my paintings and into my color mixes and stuff. I think I just kind of forget about them, so I just need to, you know, try and play with them a little bit more. But I've really been enjoying this palette. I haven't refilled anything yet. I'm trying to wait and see how which things I run out of first, and then I will do a bit of a top up and see how things go, if I want to switch any colours out or anything like that. But so far I've been loving it, and that's been a lot of fun to play with. Then in line with the whole, when I was showing you earlier in the first sketchbook, the colour palette sketchbook, that I was curating little colour palettes to create little colour stories and things like that, I had this tin of Neocolor crayons that was empty, and I kind of put together 4 different colour palettes in here. So this top row is one palette or colour story, this second row is another one, then these 5 are one, and then these 5 are another. And I have a separate tin where I keep all my spare pans. Usually it's pans that I've filled for a certain palette, and then when I've moved things around they either didn't fit or I didn't want that size pan in that palette or whatever. So I have basically a palette of spare pans that I always, when I am resetting up a palette, I always go and check that first to make sure I don't have a colour already in a pan that I can use. So I went through that and used the colours I had in that to create these little mini palettes, and I've been having fun playing with these as well in some paintings. And so that's a really fun thing to do if you have some spare patterns floating around that aren't in a palette. You can see if you can create little mini palettes with them or little mini colour stories with them, and try and play around with them that way. I think that's quite fun to do, and I'll show you some of the paintings I've done with some of those palettes. And then this one is my pastels palette that I put together recently, and I haven't done a swatch card for it yet, but I will. And this, I go over this, I don't know, the video probably won't be out yet by the time I post this one, because I think this one's going to come out first. But there will be a video coming out soon showing how I put together this palette and how I mixed my own pastels based on doing research of the colours that are included in other sort of pastel mixes. So yeah, and I've been having fun. I've not used it too much, but I have done a couple of paintings with it, and it's been quite fun to play with. And then I thought I would just do a quick little flip through some of my recent paintings and things that I did. So this was fun, just sort of colour mixing, doodly, random stuff, more random stuff. This one was fun. I did this sort of inspired by like a fingerprint motif idea, and I thought that was really fun. I doodled, it's all with watercolours and just a very fine brush, and mixing colours as you go. And then I did a series of these abstracts, which I think they're quite fun. Like I said, nothing super special or anything crazy, but they were really fun and experimental, and I was playing around with water-soluble pencils. I've got a bunch of Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle pencils and Neocolors that I was playing around with backgrounds of watercolor washes and things like that. And I'm really quite happy with how this how these 4 turned out. Definitely want to experiment more with this. I just don't think I necessarily used the right paper for this. I had some Cuddy, loose sheets of Cuddy paper that I was using for this, and it just, for what I was doing, I didn't feel like the paper was working particularly well. As much as I like the outcomes of these paintings and looking at them now through the camera, I actually really like them, but at the time working on them, I felt like the paper was kind of fighting me a little bit. So I definitely want to try this again on some other paper. Then I was playing around with other sort of abstract ideas. I'm trying to come up with some artwork that I want to hang in our new baby's room, and I really like this sort of rainbow theme. Clearly I can't get away from rainbows because my older daughter's bedroom is rainbow themed as well. We're not going with like a very hard and fast theme for the baby's room, but I do want to have some stuff hung on the walls to add a bit of colour to her room. So this was one thing I quite liked. Again, I did these with Roman Schmall paints, and then I also quite liked this one as well, also done with Roman Schmall paints, sort of like an abstract seascape. And this was not necessarily for the baby's room, but this was me just playing around with some colour separating watercolours, salt effect, and some doodles. And again, more sort of just experimenting. This was experimenting with a background wash of watercolour, and then the grass and flowers sort of details were done with gouache. So a bit of a mixed media one there. And then going back to that colour palette that was inspired by the video from Kimberly Crick, I did these two little abstract paintings also on cardie paper, just playing around with those colours and mixing them. And again, I quite like these as like a diptych. Another sort of just doodly experiment, playing with a limited colour palette. It's more, I'm very into abstracts at the moment, and I've been playing around with different styles of abstract painting, and you know, some things turn out better than others. I quite like how this one turned out. I love the colours. I like how the lines turned out. I was having a real trouble with my white paint pens for some reason on this paper, so a lot of the white details were done. I went over it with a paintbrush and Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which so my white lines aren't particularly straight. They're very wobbly because I had to do it with a paintbrush. This was one that I did with one of those limited palettes that I showed you in here. This was really fun to do. And then another couple of sort of abstract doodly ones. This one was using the same colours as in here. And this one was using a different colour palette. And again, talking about colour palettes, upside down. I did this sort of little experiment, putting together these paints, these colours, and then mixing and seeing how they work together, and then creating a floral piece with them. Anyway, I just wanted to share some of the things I've been up to recently, because I know I've not done a lot of, or any really, recent sort of paint with me type of videos. So I thought, since I'm doing this favourites video, I would also share some of the recent things I've been working on, just to let you guys see what I've been up to. Like I said, very much inspired by abstracts the last couple of months, probably because my brain has been mush and I've not been able to think and focus on anything particularly like specific. Okay, so moving on to the haul portion of this video. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because there's not a huge amount, and some of these are going to be the focus of upcoming videos as well. So going back to the Pink Pigs sketchbooks, like I said, I bought two more. So this one is the 8x8 inch size, and as I said, I felt like the A5 was a bit small. It's the same. The paper is, I think it's about 8.5 inches wide, like height or length, words. So this is 8 inches, so it's slightly shorter in the height, but it's 8x8, which means the width is going to be wider than the A5, and so it's not going to feel as small because of the spiral. And I think this is definitely going to be one that I'm going to enjoy using more for the sort of abstracts that I've been really interested in at the moment, and doing more abstract mixed media type pieces in this one. That's kind of going to be my focus for this particular sketchbook, I think, going forward. I'm going to do, yeah, I think I'm going to do a lot more like abstract mixed media type pieces in here, because like I said, I don't feel like this is a great sketchbook for strictly watercolor. It doesn't react well for just watercolor. Like, this was using the pastel watercolors that I created. But I think as watercolor as part of a mixed media piece with like ink or line work or adding other mediums to it, it would work really nicely. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this one. And then I also have an A4 sized one as well with the same paper, and I'm not sure what this one is going to be yet, but I've also been looking forward to playing with more like larger sketchbooks as well, which is why I got this one. And Pink Pig sketchbooks are very affordable, especially if you're in the UK. I believe they do free shipping if you're in the UK and you order over a certain amount. But very affordable sketchbooks for what they are as well. So definitely worth checking out, and I'll have a link to them below. It's not sponsored, it's not an affiliate link. I just think they're great. They're a great small company and very well worth supporting, in my opinion. Then next up, I have a couple of purchases that I found via eBay. So like you've seen, I had the little 10 tin of Neocolor 2s, and I have a few other colors that I'd purchased open stock as well in this little jar. But I found the 40 colour set on eBay for like a fraction of the price buying them new online elsewhere. And so I purchased it, and I've actually taken out the black and white and they're in here because I had two colours that I'd bought open stock that were not in the 40 set, so I've put those in. And so one of them was Sahara yellow and one was moss green, which don't come in the 40 set, but I had them, so I wanted to put them in. And yeah, I only got these recently, so I haven't had a huge amount of opportunity to play with them yet, but I have swatched them out and they are beautiful colours. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see a swatching video of these colours and see how they react to water and how they activate it and etc. If you'd like to see that, I can definitely do that for you. Otherwise, you'll probably see me using these in upcoming videos at some point. And then another really awesome eBay find was this set of Turner acrylic gouache. So yeah, these gouache paints are usually incredibly expensive. To get the set of 24, and I got them again for a fraction of the price on eBay. They were listed as being new, and from what I can tell, they haven't been used. So I haven't had a chance to swatch these out yet, but I will definitely be doing that soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to be recording it or not. I may record it and do sort of like a voiceover time-lapse video for the swatching, but we'll see. And I will... oh, camera battery's about to die, so I'm just going to go change that really quickly. Okay, I think we're good now. But yeah, so I'm really excited to play around with these and see how they work. I'm sure I'll let you guys know or you'll see some upcoming videos with these at some point. Like I said, I'll try and do the swatching video on camera and record that for you guys as well, but no guarantees. Ooh. Then something I ordered a couple of months ago, I think it was a couple of months ago, maybe it was a month ago, I've lost track now, and it finally came in the post yesterday, was this stamp set from Irit Landgraf here on YouTube. It's her Prismatic Watercolours stamp set. I bought her first one, which was her watercolour workbook stamp set. I didn't get the second one. This is her third stamp set, so this is a really fun one for colour mixing and stuff like that. So I thought this would be really fun to have, so I purchased it and it's here now. I have not had a chance to play with it yet, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. I will leave a link to her shop in the description box as well. I don't know if she has any in stock at the moment, but if you let her know if you're interested in getting any of her stamp sets, if you let her know, then she'll make sure she orders enough next time she does a restock in her shop. And then lastly, for this video, I recently got this set of 12 gouache colours from Arteza, and I've noticed this seems to be a fairly new thing that they've been doing. They've been putting together these little curated sets of 12 colours from their gouache, and so this was the earth tones set that I got, and I was just really intrigued by it and I wanted to see what it was like. So you get these 12 tubes of watercolour paint. There's 12 mils in each one, in these really lovely sort of muted earth tones. I'll give you a quick little peek in here. I have already filmed a video for these, so there will be a video coming out very soon. These are the colours swatched out, and that was what these paintings were that I showed you earlier. You saw quickly, was from that video. So that video will be coming out soon, but I got these recently and they were really fun to work with. And yeah, anyway, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on this set, you can check out that video when it comes out. So like I said, it should be out pretty soon because the video's already been filmed, so sometime in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. I'm going to try and stick with my once a week video schedule at the moment, just because I'm trying to build up a backlog of videos for when I have the baby and I decide to take some maternity leave, so I don't have to worry about having zero content on the channel for months at a time. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long, and like I said, I will try and link as much as I can below. If I forget to link something, or there's something that I mention that I didn't post a link for that you're curious about, or you have any questions, please just let me know in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a lovely time, enjoying. Hopefully the weather is starting to improve where you are. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought. And have you tried out any of the materials that I was talking about? Or are there any that you're interested in trying? And yeah, and if you haven't already, please subscribe so you can see whenever I upload a new video. All right, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye!